so there's a lot of people who have been volunteering with this riding association for a long time, and I can't name them all, but they put this whole evening together. It's great to see so many people out this evening. So I'll just maybe collectively, let's give them all a round of applause, please. The Federal Riding Association has a sister organization, the Provincial Ontario PC Riding Association, and there's a lot of crossover. A lot of it is the same people, and there's a lot of different people. And that group needs all the help it can get right now. They're in the middle of a leadership campaign, as most of you know, and hopefully you all have your memberships renewed. I think the cutoff, if somebody could maybe shout out the date, February 28th is the cutoff to get your memberships renewed if you want to have a say in who will be the next leader of the Ontario PC Party. So just a pleasant year-end reminder to make sure to renew your Ontario PC memberships. I want to just point out a few people who work with me in my constituency office who are here tonight. First of all, Denise McGarvey is my constituency assistant, and she's my sidekick. You know, it does happen, and my wife Susan is here, by the way, too. And I've told this, but this happens to me very often. Denise and I, for example, this afternoon we were visiting 4 different World War II veterans because there's a special commemorative pin that was put together called the Nickel V for the 75th anniversary of the beginning of World War II. And so we're meeting them in their homes so that they weren't able to come to an event that we hosted on November 10th. And you know, generationally, they look at Denise and myself together, and they ask her, is she my wife? And I explain, well, no, she's my sidekick, and we go to every nook and cranny of the riding together, and she's always at my side. She looks after a lot of the community outreach, and I really owe a debt of gratitude to all their fine work. And there's 2 other people who work with me in the constituency office that are here tonight. Igor Goncharov, and he's actually brand new. He's been with me the whole week. He took over from this fine gal that I had working with me in a constituency office called Christina Rezes. And where's Christine? There you go. And Christine, you know, she was terrific. She used to work for this other gentleman you might know called Doug Holyday. And then he was fantastic. And Doug obviously had an eye for talent. And so when I was looking for a new case manager because my previous case manager moved on to a great new opportunity, I hired Christine. Well, Doug's son, Stephen Holyday, also has an eye for talent. So he hired Christine away from me. Now she's back at City Hall. It's gone full circle. Congratulations, by the way, again, Christine, on your new job. And then there's somebody called Luke Walter, who you might have met, who spends a lot of time with me. Luke is a student at Guelph Humber in political science, and he's one of my loyal sidekicks on my weekend activities. So this job is a 7-day-a-week job, as I've explained to a lot of people. When we're in session, I'm in Ottawa Monday to Friday, and then my weekends are fairly full with activities because more than half the job of a member of parliament is actually spending time with people that you represent in the riding. So I'm busy every weekend meeting with people when I can, and even when we're not in session, in those weeks when we're in recess in Parliament, I'm working the riding, as we say, and same thing during our summer recesses, and the same thing with this upcoming Christmas recess. So I'm just going to say a couple of words about the next few months, because you might have heard that there's an election coming up. October 19th, 2015. We have a fixed election date, and of course a lot of people come up to me and say, we hear there's going to be a spring election. And look, I don't pretend to have the inside knowledge of the inner workings of the Prime Minister's brain. However, we do have this law called the fixed election date, but more importantly, there's something you might have heard of called the family tax cut. There's a whole package of benefits for families where every single Canadian family benefits. It's a significant increase in universal child care benefit, an increase in family tax deductions, all kinds of benefits for families, a doubling of the fitness tax credit for families. And for a lot of people, they'll be receiving, it's coming into force January 1st, the measure, especially the universal child care benefit. And there'll be certain checks will be paid out starting in July of 2015. So that's very significant. And it's not just a tactical measure on our part, it's actually higher level than that. Because we're the party that stands for reducing taxes. There's a very big difference between the opposition parties, the official opposition, the NDP, but our real opposition in 2015 is going to be the Liberal Party of Canada. And they've denounced every single tax break we've ever done in the last 8 years, including income tax reductions, corporate tax reductions, tariff reductions, and significantly they denounced reductions in the GST. So they've clearly indicated their preference is for tax increases. They've clearly indicated they would reverse the tax breaks for Canadian families, and the opposition, the official opposition, the NDP, has also echoed that same sentiment. There's only one party in the entire Parliament of Canada that actually stands for tax reductions and for responsible fiscal management, and that's the Conservative Party of Canada. So if you want to hear, what is the real ballot question in October of 2015? It really is, it's a party that's committed to controlling or respecting taxpayer dollars. We've reduced significantly federal expenditures, and this is looking at every single program of government and doing a much deeper and more thorough job than the Liberals ever did back in the Paul Martin, Jean Trottier days. We're not just cutting transfers to the provinces. You might have heard about the actual increases in the transfers to the provinces. We actually reduced taxes, and at the same time we balanced the budget. So it's a very significant year for us. We've got a balanced budget through respect for taxpayers' dollars and respect for Canadian families. And there's a philosophical approach there too. When you think about measures like the universal child care benefit, it's just a nice example, but there's many other examples in our government where we respect Canadian taxpayers and Canadian families to manage their own affairs. It doesn't involve a big bureaucratic program where the government takes, for every $100 it spends on government programs, has to take in $150 just to pay $50 for a bureaucracy to manage it. And we actually believe that Canadian families and Canadian taxpayers can run their own lives and make their own responsible decisions. And that's a fundamental difference. The other big ballot question, and Larry somewhat alluded to it when he mentioned Justin Short Pants Trudeau, but it comes down to what is this great country called Canada? What is its role in the world? When you think about it, we're a country that is the envy of the world. 250,000 people emigrate to Canada or become Canadian citizens every year. People from all over the world want to move to Canada. And why? Part of it is because you can actually prosper in this country, you can actually keep what you earn, you can actually invest in your families, you can have a bright future. But part of it is there's a certain pride in being a Canadian. And it also means when you're a Canadian that we take a responsible role when it comes to getting involved in situations. I mentioned earlier I met with 4 World War II veterans. World War II wasn't a war that affected Canada directly, but we were there from the very beginning. From September of 1939, and we decided that we had to stand up to tyranny, and we got involved. And we ultimately fought with the Allies and rescued Europe and most of the rest of the world from tyranny. Many other situations where Canada's been involved. We're in a situation right now in Canada where we're involved in Eastern Europe. And some people say, why are we doing that? Why are we sending what Justin Trudeau calls some aging warplanes to defend democracy and freedom in places like the Baltics, places like Ukraine, places like Moldova? It's because these are people who want what Canada has. They want freedom, they want the rule of law, they want prosperity, and they want futures for their families and their children. And so Canada's involved there, because these are what these peoples in Eastern Europe want. And we need to have the financial might and the military might to do those kinds of things. We're also involved in Iraq. Iraq went through a very violent period, as you all know. Went through a period with some factional infighting, and after a long time, through the concerted effort of the Iraqi people themselves, with the help of allies like the United States and Britain and others, it's actually become a democracy. It's a very fragile democracy, but it's actually a democracy now. And it's also a pluralistic society where different people can live together. An entity established itself in the northern part of Iraq and in parts of Syria, which is called the Islamic State. The Islamic State in Iraq and Al-Sham, or in Iraq and the Levant, or ISIL. And it's sad. It's sad. I mean, what we see in parts of northern Iraq and in Kurdistan and in Syria is it's a medieval society that's been established. We see slavery being established. Women and girls being sold in slave markets. And to think that Canada can sit on the sidelines and let that happen in 2014 is unthinkable. So I was proud to be part of a government that voted to send the Royal Canadian Air Force to be part of an international mission to fight this evil entity. And I'm very proud that we're doing that. It's not going to happen overnight. But this will be a ballot question. This will be a ballot question in 2015. What kind of country will Canada be, and what is Canada's place in the world? I mentioned, about the slave markets in northern Iraq right now. Canada has a proud tradition, not just going back to World War II, even much longer than that. When Upper Canada was a colony, a British colony, in 1793, we had a lieutenant governor at the time called John Graves Simcoe. And John Graves Simcoe was an abolitionist back when he was a British member of Parliament, way back when. And then he was the Lieutenant Governor of Upper Canada, and Upper Canada was the very first British colony that voted in the legislature of Upper Canada, voted to abolish slavery. This was 1793. The British Empire only voted in its parliament to abolish slavery in 1833. So Upper Canada was 40 years ahead of the rest of the British Empire, which was, again, way ahead of the United States of America. So Canada has been a leader for a long, long time when it comes to fighting for freedom in the world. And that's a tradition that we will maintain. We will maintain that tradition because Canada is a proud country. We stand up for the fundamental human values of freedom and rights and the rule of law. So those are the important questions. As we think about this upcoming election year, there will be battles. People will talk about scandals, policy difference. But I think if you think about those fundamental differences between our party and the other parties, there is a clear choice that Canadians will have. I'm very optimistic. I'm actually very proud to be a member of a party that's accomplished so much in almost 4 years now. And I think we have a record that we're running on. There was several years of minority parliament where we were accused of having a hidden agenda when we were a minority. So now we've got a majority government. I'm still waiting to see the hidden agenda because the hidden agenda is really not so hidden. It's what you see. What we've done is we've had a very strong economy in the world. We've stood up for freedom, and we've reduced people's taxes. So with that, I hope to enlist your support going forward. We have a very good campaign team, and I know most of you already have volunteered in the past. I really appreciate your support. So I'm going to leave my remarks at that. I do want to introduce somebody because, by the way, this is a joint initiative of both the federal and provincial riding associations. And so our candidate of record in this fine riding of Etobicoke-Lakeshore is an outstanding gentleman who's contributed so much to public life here in Toronto and in Ontario, and that's Doug Holyday. If Doug can come up here.
You just can't get away from it, Doug.
You can't get away from the microphone.
Well, thank you very much, Bernard. Actually, I'm very delighted to be here tonight, and I'm delighted to see such a large turnout. I can recall over in years gone by Christmas parties that Michael Wilson had and others that were huge extravaganzas, and we had a lot of fun, and I think tonight has all the makings of the same thing. But to get past the Christmas season into New Year's, I think we have to take a look at what's coming up for us. And firstly, there'll be the leadership of the provincial Conservatives. That'll be a big matter, and I know a lot of you will be paying attention to that. But I guess as we get into the year, there's certainly going to be a federal election. And what I would like you to do is to resolve to make a New Year's resolution to be a part of that election. Bernard can get elected again, and we need Bernard at Ottawa. We certainly need a Conservative government up there, but it can only happen if a lot of people get behind him. It's not going to be an easy fight, but it can be won, and it can be won with the help of all the people here and everyone that you can attract to help Bernard when the thing starts. So Bernard, I pledge to you that I'll be there to help you, and I just hope everyone else will as well. So once again, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.